Well, it's finally here. The Love Live. Finally. Okay, I have been dragging on about this in like every single one of these videos I've done, but the pacing, oh my god, this episode was so slow compared to the last couple, and I'm getting a bit of whiplash. There's quite a few things I'm getting whiplash over that I'm going to cover. I don't think this video will be as long as the last few. I'm sort of running out of interesting things to say. I definitely had a lot more thoughts about the characters, and now we're getting into the story, like the actual main plot of everything. It's... I don't have as much to say, but we'll see. It's very cool to see the actual Love Live as a competition evolving with the world. In Muse, it was new, it was a fresh thing. In Aqua, it was gaining traction, and now it's being held at a giant arena. That's really cool. I love that development, and I love the kind of canonical timeline we've got going on. Obviously, All Stars is completely exempt from that. We're just going to ignore All Stars. Cuckoo being the most reasonable out of the girls about their chances in the Love Live was very refreshing. It was very good to see from her, and it makes sense from her because she is the character that knows the most about the competition. So for the others to go, oh, it's gonna be like a fun thing, or we'll be in with a good shot, or whatever, it makes sense that Cuckoo comes in and says, actually, no, this is going to be the most difficult thing that we have ever faced. And I really liked that. I liked that angle from her, and the fact that for once she was the voice of reason. It was very, very good, and I think that having more of that going forward will make me like her more in general, because, as I've mentioned, I have a couple gripes with Cuckoo's characterizations, but in recent episodes she's actually been really good. She's been very enjoyable. I'm so glad that the suggestion box made a comeback. I did think it was cool the way that they spun it this time, with it being more of a way to add more to the story rather than the way that the girls actually got their name. It would be kind of a cop-out if they did the suggestion box as the name source again, but I liked it. I really liked it in Muse, and I'm glad that it made some kind of an appearance. Sunnypa, oh my god, welcome back. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I think having them come in on these kind of topics is very good. It's a very good use of their characters because they are so much more experienced than the Leela girls, and they can be a source of inspiration and of motivation for Leela. So the fact that the series is using them in this way, I think is really impressive. It's great that they haven't just thrown them in as the rivals and kind of left them. Like, the repeat appearances, I'm really enjoying. I like how they're being utilized not only in the story, but to bring a bit of a different perspective for the actual characters. Sunnypa being named by their fans, I think, was very sweet, and the idea that they weren't very big when their fans came up with that name, probably for Kanon in particular, put a lot of what they're doing into perspective. You don't need a whole lot of fans to be successful in this realm. Obviously, that's a tricky point, kind of a grey area, because obviously as someone who has been doing this kind of thing for a while, I know how difficult it is to work in performative arts. But at the same time, I've been streaming on Twitch, and even with just over 100 followers, I have had an incredible amount of success there. So it really depends on the kind of social media that you are using and the ways in which you interact with your fans. And the reason I bring up Twitch is because obviously live streaming made an appearance in this episode, which I think is fantastic, because not only is the concept of the Love Live as a competition evolving, the world is evolving. The ways that school idols are expected to interact with their audiences is evolving. In a lot of ways, Muse was very removed from their fans. That's not something we really saw, but with Leela, they're online, they have presences, they are aware of social media as a concept, and they're using it to their advantage. That is fantastic. It's so painfully relatable as well. Like I mentioned before, the whole Sumire plot is something very close to me. I've been through it. I've been there, and in many ways, I'm still there. The fact that in this world, the girls are able to use social media and the presences they have to their advantage is fantastic. It's excellent world building, and it gives us more scope on the impact that idols have in this world. When they were talking about the fact that school idols had saved schools in the past, like clearly they were referring to Muse and Aqua, which I'm surprised didn't make any kind of cameos or didn't have any mentions in this episode. I'm still expecting them to show up in some capacity, but we'll see. When they were talking about how schools had been saved, it made school idols sound like such a powerful force, and we've seen it. We've seen that happen in the past few iterations, so that again adds to the idea of the canonical timeline, like, oh, these idols, which are totally Muse and Aqua, saved their school by bringing attention to it by performing. And that's cool. It's really cool that we have that world building and they have that knowledge, like, oh yeah, school idols are massive. They've literally changed lives. I think it's good that we have that kind of world development in general, because Love Live and honestly a lot of idol shows in general are not huge on world building, mostly because they don't need to, but even just a little bit of world building can go such a long way. Ren not knowing about live streaming and also not having a camera when they were video chatting, I love that. I think it's a great addition to her character. In a lot of ways, it kind of doesn't fit. Like, she was played up to be this very high-strung, intelligent young woman, and now we're learning that she doesn't really know about technology, which I guess depending on the kind of setting that they're in, because this whole time I've been assuming that they lived in our world, so the quote-unquote real world, but they could be a couple of years behind us where, say, Twitch and YouTube live streaming aren't big. And I use those examples because obviously I'm white and Western, so I don't know what kind of live streaming services Japan and really any Eastern countries have. I think because I really liked Hanamaru, I really like this angle with Ren, even if it kind of, at least from my perspective, doesn't super fit her. I love Hanamaru, she's so cute. Also, obviously Chisato running around screaming Maru. That was very cute, and I think that throwbacks to characters, if they are throwbacks, they kind of feel like they are, but throwbacks to the previous characters really get me, and as cheesy as they are, I love them to bits. I'm pretty sure, and I really love this, that Cuckoo and Sumire were using Zoom backgrounds when they were on video call. At least Sumire definitely was. That was really cool. I like that scene because it shows us a little bit more about the girls in a world building sense. The whole show don't tell thing that I have been going on about. This was a perfect scenario for just a little look into their lifestyles. So we know that in modern day, a lot of people use Zoom backgrounds for whatever reasons, and the idea that Cuckoo and Sumire use them tells me a fair bit about their characters without telling me about their characters. Cuckoo makes sense because we've seen her house and we know that she's still, to an extent, unpacking, so it's very possible that her house is a mess. We also know that she's living alone, so maybe she just hasn't had time to unpack or to clean up, and she's using a background so that she's not embarrassed by the state of her house. Sumire, which I think is an important thing, is probably using one to enhance her environment. Like, her house, as far as we know, could be absolutely spotless, but she uses a background to make it look even better. And in this case, she was using clearly some kind of outdoor scene, and she by no means was in that actual environment. So either she's put on a background or she has like a set poster or something, which I think would be even funnier than her using a Zoom background. But there's clearly a reason that those two have decided to use backgrounds, and even if the story never tells us why, it can show us. It showed us that Cuckoo had boxes all over her house, but it hasn't showed us Sumire. I will come back to that. These girls do not know how to communicate, and the classmates calling them a blank slate I think was the wake-up call a lot of them needed, because so far Cuckoo has been the only one that knows anything about school idols, and even though I have complained about that, she is the only one that knows what they have to do. And even if she kind of forgot that they needed a proper name, or perhaps she just didn't know, it seems weird that she wouldn't know because of how invested she is in the Love Live, so my money's on that she forgot. But she would understand that idols need to have some kind of motif, a central image. For Muse and Aqua, I feel like this was very difficult for the creators to pinpoint because there's 9 of them. Aqua had the overarching theme of the ocean, the beach, which I thought was really, really nice. I enjoyed that a lot. Muse is a little trickier to pinpoint because obviously being the first actual anime made from Love Live, there was a lot of motifs that the series just didn't have yet. For example, the icons that each girl has. The Muse girls eventually got them, but they don't have the same sort of clear, punchy look that the Aqua and the Lila girls do. Take Maki's symbol, for example, just a star. It's obviously from one of her athletic outfits, but for her as a character overall, it doesn't have any real bearing on who she is or her main motifs. It's just a star. But then you look at any of the Aqua symbols and you can pretty quickly pick up what that character's about. Like, Kanan's symbol being a dolphin obviously ties into her being a diver and swimming in general, and Riko's symbol of the piano, obviously because she's a pianist. Not to diverge too much, but I do think that Hanamaru, Daya, and Mari's symbols are a little vague, but they still have a really strong image that can be easily tied back to that specific character. If you just see a red star or a pink smiley face, you might not immediately tie that into that character without the context of Love Live. I really like the montage for Kanon getting ideas and writing everything down. The fact that we saw her pick up books about different languages and was clearly doing research, that was really, really strong. And I obviously think that the song that played during that time is going to be the song that they performed during the actual Love Live, but it's cool to see that kind of transition, because what the writers can do, if they're really smart about this kind of thing, is play what would be considered an early draft of the song and then have the full version of the song later when they actually perform it. We'll see if that's actually what they do. I think the source of the name coming from within the group was a really, really good fit for this series. There's obviously been a lot of focus on the girls as a group and sort of a focus on the girls as individuals. Mainly Chisato, I feel like, got a lot of individual time. Ren as well, but seeing them do their own things and getting a little bit of backstory on them, just generally getting more development than we've really ever got out of Love Live before, has been really refreshing and really good. Having Kanon come up with the name, they are putting way too much focus on Kanon, and this episode kind of called that out when the others were looming over her, waiting for her to come up with lyrics. So they're clearly, in some capacity, aware that this is the Kanon show. But I really think that her coming up with the name was the best way for the group to get their name, particularly in this series. I am, however, disappointed that we didn't see more of Ren's ideas. What was that about? Like, they're just gonna leave us hanging and not show us what she had written properly? Like, we got a little glimpse. We just got a little taste. I really wish, in a perfect world, that maybe Kanon drew a complete blank. Like, she came up with ideas for the song but couldn't come up with a name, and then Ren says, oh well, I've got some ideas, and then brings out her notebook. Like, we just glossed over that. I do feel like any characters that aren't Kanon are being tossed to the side a little bit. I wish that we got more of a focus on them. Like, we got a massive focus on Cuckoo, and that sort of set me up to expect the same out of the rest of them, but okay, I am finally circling back to talk about this thing that's been bothering me. We got an insert song after every single girl except Sumire. I'm not saying this from the perspective of a Sumire fan, I'm saying this from the perspective of somebody who just enjoys consistency. We got so many insert songs in a row that episodes that don't have an insert song at the end now feel, I don't want to say empty, but that's the first word that came to mind, that the ends of them just don't feel as punchy anymore. It felt like with the previous series, we got more spaced out insert songs. Like when we actually got one, it was a big event and it was really exciting, but this time we've been spoiled with them. Yet for some reason, we just didn't get a Sumire song. Maybe in a perfect world, she's the center for the Love Live performance, but we all know it's gonna be Kanon. There's no reality that it's anyone else. So, as I mentioned, either they have big plans for my best girl, or they had no plans for my best girl. We'll just have to wait and see, I guess. Like with everything. This episode overall felt very slow. I know I keep harping on about pacing, but it is so important to have consistent pacing because otherwise your viewers are going to get whiplash, and that is exactly what I'm having here. Knowing that the Love Live is coming up, we are either going to see it next episode or in 3 episodes. 3 episodes from now will be the finale for this season. If they decide to do the Love Live in the finale, I can only wonder how they are going to fill in the next 2 episodes. The episode 10 preview was very vague. I have nothing to say about it. I'm just at an absolute loss as to how they're going to spend the next 2 episodes, because if they do decide to have the Love Live as the finale, what else can happen? Like, obviously Kanon needs to write lyrics, but that's the only plot driver we have right now. So either they need to come up with something engaging enough to keep us going for another 3 episodes, or they need to put the Love Live in the next episode, which, judging by the title and the episode preview, that's not the case. My thoughts is that the next episode is just going to be general preparation and the introduction of some kind of tension or drama. Maybe it's, oh, Sunnypa's performing in the Love Live, we don't stand a chance against them. But even then, like, Sunnypa's probably going to be there anyway. That's not really a surprise. It's not really a drama. We know them. We know that they're popular. They wouldn't miss the Love Live, right? Unless the drama is that they are going to miss the Love Live. Just a thought. Could be something. Could be nothing. I have no idea. I have nothing. I have no ideas. Usually I can kind of guess where the stories are going, but I've got nothing this time. I really don't know what else to say.